Hi everyone, before you dive into the episode, I just wanted to interrupt really quickly. You're gonna dive into this episode and you're gonna hear me call this podcast the Holistic Hustle Podcast. And that is because it used to be the old name of this podcast. And it was an amazing ride. I'm so grateful for the Holistic Hustle Podcast and what it served. But recently I've decided to rebrand the podcast based off the evolution of my own journey, my own story, and where God is calling me to go next. And so now the rebrand, which you may know already, is called Wisdom is Wealth. Didn't want you to be confused, so dive into this episode. They were an amazing episode, amazing guests, amazing insights, and enjoy.
We believe that those entrepreneurs still needed an ecosystem of individuals that were there for unbiased solutions.
Hi, I'm Justin Buonamo, and this is Holistic Hustle. Holistic Hustle is doing things for the right reasons, working hard for the right reasons. The healthy balance of what work and progression and accomplishment and success should actually look like. Welcome back to another episode of the Holistic Hustle Podcast with Justin Buonamo, and I have my boy Antonio here. Antonio will be getting into some very awesome questions for the audience today, but just to lay a little groundwork about who Antonio is and why he's so important to me. Antonio Vaglica is the co-founder and business advisor for GFG Solutions based out of Tampa. GFG Solutions helps business owners optimize their business and pay less in taxes. And as a client of Antonio's now since December, January-ish, I can definitely tell you that that is true to the highest extent. I think we were working together for maybe a month, and I'm comfortable with sharing these numbers, with the audience, but working together for maybe a month before I filed my 2023 taxes. And in 2022, I claimed 1.2 million and I paid about 100K in taxes. In 2023, I claimed 1.3 million and I got a $6,000 refund, right? And that was a lot to do with the strategies that Antonio and I were able to implement around my tax situation, around the businesses that I do have. And ever since then, we have just been working with this team to optimize our business and having a little bit of fun in the process too as well. Antonio and I got to hang out a couple of weeks ago in Tampa. You could call it playing some golf. It was just one of those days for the golfers that I know that, if you're out there, you know what I'm saying. But it's just been an incredible experience with Antonio and his team. And I was using them as an example the other day when I was teaching in my community. And I was like, the best marketing in the world is a world-class client experience. And somebody that I can think of, if not the best in the world at it, is Antonio when it comes to just making his clients just feel so loved and so supported and so appreciated. If it's not a weekly random gift that I'm getting from me, my business, or my family, they got my daughter some gifts when we had her. It's a weekly random text message just to check in on how I'm doing, how the business is doing. And so he provides so much value for me and my business and the businesses that he works with. And so I just had to have him on the podcast so you guys can share some of that value that I know you're going to experience with him sharing here today. So Antonio, welcome to the podcast, man. We're excited to have you.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here and even live up to everything you just said. So thank you so much for having me, and blessed to have you in my life, brother.
Yeah, man. I love you, dude. Thank you for being here. And you do such great work. You do so many things, right, for so many different people inside of your business. And so I think we kind of touched on it a tiny bit in your bio, but I just would love to hear it from you and let the audience hear it from you. So can you break down what do you do and why did you get into it?
Sure. So I'll try and condense it from the longer version to just the long version. So with that, after a long life playing baseball, I played baseball my entire life. I'll keep it very short. Was a very elite baseball player. Was thinking about going to play in the pros. Abruptly quit on myself at a low point in my life. And after a long depression, got into personal development and got into entrepreneurship, specifically in the world of financial services and sales. That's a very abrupt way of saying how it all happened. There's a lot of context in between there, but specific to how we got here today and what we do, I'll keep it at that. And so with that, when I say we, it's me and my business partner, Landon. We were best friends since we went to high school together. We both went to a small boys boarding school in North Carolina, even though we're not from there. And so with that, we both got into financial services with different companies at the same exact time. And if you know anything about financial services and being 22 years old at the time, it's like oil and water. You're not supposed to get into financial services at that young age. How the hell are you going to teach people about wealth when you have $500 to your name? And so with that, we just became animals when it came to sales, just really trying to just do the greater good for people with the knowledge that we had. And we shortly created a podcast, which was a way for he and I to stay connected and to just navigate this world of self-employment, but being so young, just not knowing what we don't know. And with that, we quickly realized that nobody wanted to listen to two 22-year-olds talk about success when we had none of it. So we would interview successful business owners like yourself to come on to the podcast and extract as much value so that they can, one, have a platform, and we were just giving as much as we could. But then two, being able to selfishly ask questions that we wanted to know because we couldn't afford their mentorship at the time. And so with that, it was a sneaky way of being able to get the questions that we needed answered for us to take a quantum leap in life and in business. And so with that, we then started to apply all of the information that they were giving us on the podcast. And we've quickly became valuable enough after implementing for so long, like all the things that they were saying, we became valuable enough to then bring a value proposition to these people offline. It initially started with just, hey, we're going to go for it, and get rejected a bunch of times by asking for referrals for people on this podcast. Didn't really get that rejected that much because a lot of people that wanted to come on the podcast were really good people that wanted to pay it forward. So we got a ton of referrals for the podcast in that way. Then we started to bring our value proposition based off what we do professionally at the time. And that's where a lot of rejection started to happen. But you only need, out of a large sample size, you only need 1 to 2 people to truly believe in you and your vision to take a shot on you to change your entire life. And that's exactly what happened. And so shortly after, we created a couple massive joint ventures in our world, which ultimately allowed us to quit our jobs and start our agency together. And that was pumping out 1 to 2,000 organic leads a month, where it wasn't like cold leads. These were not even hot leads. They were sizzling hot leads of people that just wanted to buy our financial services products. And with that, built out a sales organization, top of the leaderboards, et cetera, really started to build a robust practice, but eventually got tired of having to position a specific product for us to make income. I love the idea of making people feel good about their finances, implementing a bunch of advice and giving them as much strategic advice, specifically for entrepreneurs, because I'm an entrepreneur. And with that, the challenging part of our business model formerly was every time you give advice, eventually you'd have to implement some type of product to be able to get compensated. And so naturally, there's a little bit of bias in that advice. So we simply just decided to sell off the book of business, and we completely exited all that and launched a consulting platform. And the consulting platform really operates as what we like to call a fractional family office. So family offices, if you're at 100, 200 million plus of net worth, you start to bring in an in-house team of lawyers, accountants, CPAs, financial advisors, investment advice, all those types of things, so that you can protect, save money in taxes, and build your wealth, through an in-house team. That's going to cost you $250,000 plus dollars a year just to maintain. But if you're a growing business owner making $1 million, $2 million, $3 million of gross revenue, $100 million of gross revenue, that doesn't automatically equate to $100 million of net worth. Over time it could. And so with that, we believe that those entrepreneurs still needed an ecosystem of individuals that were there for unbiased solutions. And what we came to find was that every time we'd interview these entrepreneurs, their CPA would be giving them advice based off how little work they had to do. The financial advisor would be giving them advice based on how much they get paid. And the business owners left paying a bunch of what I like to call stupid tax by having shitty advice. Excuse my language, but that was just the truth. If you're telling me you want to get here and you're here, you're paying a lot of tax along the way, both metaphorically and literally, if you're not taking advantage of unbiased planning. And so with that, we created this consulting model to be that fractional family office for the growing business owner that wants to take that next step, but wants to have an in-house ecosystem of solutions that is optimized for everything around their vision, so that they can get their, more optimized, cleaner, more efficiently, more in alignment with where they want to go with their family, et cetera. I have this, I guess you could call it naive, but this belief that business can be utopic at the same time, like utopia can exist. And we just have to see it and believe it and have the right professionals in our corner to actually get to where we want to be. And that's kind of what we exist. So I know a long-winded answer, but that's kind of what we do.
No, it's awesome. And it's just such a needed service. And, even for the person that doesn't have financial knowledge, doesn't even have business knowledge, right? Like those things are very, very needed. But even someone like myself, who when I met you had financial knowledge, had business knowledge, but had these unique variables, right? That I knew, but couldn't express fully to the people around me that were consulting, like my accountant, like my financial advisor, like my lawyer. And they understood it to a certain extent, right? But between them not fully understanding, me not being able to fully articulate what my needs are, what my uniqueness is, as not just a business owner, but a person that owns a particular business like I do, coupled with the goals that me and my wife have, right? And then you throw in their biases too as well, it leads to a bunch of stupid tax. It really does. Which means just like, okay, this person doesn't fully understand what I'm trying to do. I can't fully explain it to them, right? And also they have some biases in the information or the advice that they're giving me. And so obviously that's not going to add up to optimal outcomes. And so you guys come in and you play that third party that fills in the pieces, is what I've really found, which has been awesome.
And to your point, like every second you take to try and get your professionals in alignment is money that you're losing by not focusing on revenue generating activities or impact that you're leaving off the table by investing in your team or your clients, et cetera. And so like that's where we've come to find is like we work with a pretty much 99% service providers. So all service-based clients, general contractors, people in your world, the coaching space, consulting, law firms, all these types of things, really specialized, unique advice. They're really, really good at what they do. But then when it comes to the compliance, asset protection, taxes, et cetera, they don't know what they don't know. And that's where we come in, where we're the nerds. We study all this shit all day. Sorry if I'm cursing on this. We study this stuff all day. And then we're able to, one, in my opinion, one of our superpowers is we're able to just truly listen. And as entrepreneurs, we understand your vision and help you extract the most tangible vision of what you're looking to seek. And then we understand the nuance of the advice side of it to make sure that we're articulating that vision to the professionals so that everyone's in alignment. And if somebody's not on the team that's in alignment, they got to get off the team, unfortunately.
1000% agree. And I think that lack of direction that people have or business owners have, right, with assembling that team, with doing the things that you're talking about is a big mistake that they made and that we're making or experiencing. And you've obviously have a lot of experience in entrepreneurship yourself, right? Through your own endeavors, through the people that you've interviewed and the people that you've worked with, and now the people that you encounter a ton on a month-to-month basis from some of the things that you're doing. But aside from what we already talked about, what's the biggest mistake and missed opportunities you see business owners making and experiencing?
Wow. That is a great question. And I don't know if we have enough time on this podcast to go through every single one.
I agree.
A couple of the tactical ones that I guess come to my head because I guess I'm biased is not taking advantage of tax strategy. Thinking like the worst answer that I get, and this is where if you're this person, I love you still, but you're gonna have to reevaluate the next step of your business if you want to get to the next stage. If your only answer to people is, yeah, my CPA's got it all handled, you're going to have to figure out something new because I promise you there's something inside of that strategy where you're leaking dollars. And on the tax side, that's the hidden value that could exist on your balance sheet when you're having potentially cash flow issues or liquidity problems is because every time we're going through our profit and loss data, right? You're looking at this word EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, all that BS, right? That's great to tell me how much net profit I'm making, what my margins are, et cetera. But at the end of the day, if I'm an entrepreneur looking to create lifestyle, looking to make money, what I make at the end of the day is what I actually take home, and that's after tax dollars. And if I'm not accounting for that, then April is going to be a pretty rough season for you. Yeah. So with that, if I can have an idea proactively of what my tax situations look like and actually start to mitigate the taxes that I'm going to pay based off of the dollars I'm already spending and investing, now I have more dollars back to my bottom line, which equals more revenue generating activity, more team, more impact, more charitable efforts, et cetera. So taxes are the lost balance sheet item that I don't think a lot of people are addressing because everyone thinks that the solution to their problem is just making more money. If you don't have a good foundation, making more money is actually, you're going to grow yourself out of business. Two, as you continue to get to the next level, the money, the true next level elite dollars are made in the nuance and made in the 1% growth, which is where I highly recommend investing in specific areas of coaching and mentorship, et cetera. So like for me, I have a coach for fitness. I have a coach for financials. I have a coach for, spiritual side of things, all those types of things. When you're first starting out, you're able to get 50% better because you didn't even have a baseline. But as you continue to progress to the elite levels, you're looking to get a 0.5% better or 1% better. That's where the edge off the competition is made, and you have to hire someone that's already been there in that situation. So you always want to have somebody that's been further along in your corner in all these aspects of your life. And then 3, I guess, just like know it, like thinking that you know it all. And this is something that I can personally attest to. This is, my own ego had to drop for a long time, is that you're probably not always right. If you have a business partnership, you should probably start to switch the frame. This was a huge frame that we switched, is it's not me against you, me against the business partner. It's us against the problem. And that's probably healthy for your relationship, your marriage, et cetera. But if you can start to see problems as they are and obstacles as they are, that's just business. And we're going to take this beautiful engine of ideas that we have together and collaborate against that problem instead of pointing fingers. Now, that was a huge liberator for me in my business. So just a couple things there. I'm sure we could go through a laundry list of them, but yeah.
Yeah, I love it. So my CPA is taking care of that. You want to get 1% better after you start to get to new levels. And a big way that you can do that is just hiring people that have done what you've done, or done what you want to do, to condense the time frames. I tell people all the time, like, the shit we teach at JFF, like, you may be able to figure out yourself, but that might take you 5-10 years. You're going to hire us and we're going to show you how to do it in 30 days, right?
I'm just going to pay you for your experience, right?
1,000%.
You can only pay in 2 things. There's only 2 currencies that you can pay to get to the next level, is rather your time or your money. In the beginning, you have to pay with your time because you don't have money. So you're going to do a lot of sweat equity and get to a certain level. And then once you accumulate money, don't try and hoard the money. Invest in skills that are going to make you money forever, which is investing in the coaching and the mentorship of people that have already been there. So now I can take your 10 years of experience and download it to myself for 1 year. I'm actually ahead of you because it took you 15 years. I now just bought all your experience and bought all that nuance. That's the cheat code that I've at least observed.
Such a good cheat code. And it's just funny to me. You see all these coaches and consultants online trying to sell their services, but not investing in anything else. You know what I mean? It's like the coach that doesn't have a coach isn't a coach. The coach that doesn't have a coach isn't a coach that you want to hire. The consultant that doesn't have a consultant is not the one you want to hire. I always tell people, it's like, how do you expect to get on a sales call with one of your prospects and expect them to invest money into their coaching, but you're not willing to do that yourself, right? It doesn't make too much sense. And that, which leads to the third point, that you made, that you don't always know everything, right? And a big reason why I hired you guys, like, I'm a financial coach. I know my shit when it comes to finances, but I don't know everything. I don't know what I don't know, right? And hiring y'all, I think you guys probably thought it was going to be a little bit harder to onboard me based off what I do. You're probably like, oh, this dude's going to be postured and know this already. It's going to be hard to tell him this. And like, I think about 97% of the shit you told me, I just was like, okay, cool. I trust you. That makes sense. I get how it fits in. Not pushing back, like not trying to posture, prove, or protect anything, and I'm going to go implement it, right? And just like knowing that you don't know everything, despite how smart you are in a topic, right, will go a long, long way. And so I think that's all fantastic information for the listeners to utilize and really put into your entrepreneur and business ownership journey. But something else that you do really well, dude, is like you do a lot of masterminding. You're putting yourself in a lot of big rooms, not just your podcast, right? You being on a podcast or having hosts on your podcast, like you're actually paying to go to masterminds with a lot of people that know a lot of things, right? And be around that energy and that information. And so what is one thing that you've learned lately that blew your mind or has been moving the needle for you tremendously, personally or professionally, from these masterminds you've been going to?
Wow. That's a great question. I think as you continue to go to masterminds, you start to see how they are run. And some are run great, some are run suboptimally. And the leader of the mastermind is, whoever leads the mastermind is how the mastermind's actually going to go and how they are as a facilitator. And a couple of the really good ones I've been to, the leader took so much time to observe every single person that was coming. And this one was a larger one. It was like a 50-person ski trip in Canada. So the logistics alone were insane. This person was not doing it for a profit, so he broke even on the whole thing, just connecting and for the goodwill of everything. So one, there's a key lesson in that right there. He's been doing this for 4 years, and every single person there since that last one has created a joint venture with him, just sending him a ton of referrals because of all the goodwill that he's creating. His name's Eli Facenda. I think I've connected you too. Eli's
He's on my podcast next week.
Awesome.
He's got this slot next Tuesday.
A shameless plug, connect with Eli. He's a super connector. He's amazing. So what Eli did that was so unique to all these other masterminds, and there's a ton of great ones out there, but Eli took the time to have a 15, 20-minute call with every single person, understanding one, their expertise, and two, what their biggest challenge was going into the mastermind and what their biggest intention was to get out of it, specifically on the business side. And every single person at the mastermind had an opportunity to go into what we call a hot seat. And it's you and three other people that could solve your problem. And you spend an hour with those people where they ask questions and then they give you advice. And it was transformative. Like years and years of marketing experience, sales experience, operational stuff that I was just downloaded. And I was able to give, tax advice, et cetera, like for free. Everyone's just depositing as much value as possible. And, we were saving people 6+ figures just off a couple conversations, just on taxes alone. And I was, the amount of value that we got out of it from a marketing and sales perspective was incredible. So that was an awesome nuance that I got from the mastermind. And one of the main things that I've started to realize from these, speaking engagements that you go to in these masterminds is less about the actual speakers on stage, although they're great. It's the people that you meet that along the way, because now there's like this subconscious level of respect that you gain for someone at that event, especially if it's a higher ticket event, because you took a risk away from your family. You spent 10, 20, 30 grand just on a ticket to go to this place, and you don't know anyone there. And so now there's like this shared adversity that we all had to overcome to actually get to where we are. So now there's an immediately like brotherhood there, and there's a community aspect to it. And those friendships are just lifelong. And I go there specifically not trying to acquire clients, and I'm just looking to make friends. It just so happens that we get a ton of clients at the same time, but that's the beauty of it. When you're not hard pitching and you're just trying to give value, people end up paying you for what you do. It's just they rather just give it to somebody who's an expert in their field. So those are a couple of things in the mastermind world that we've noticed. And the more you can be a super connector and stop trying to put the focus on you and meet someone and identify someone that they should connect with or a piece of value add that you can give to their lives, I think that's significantly more valuable than you just trying to pitch your stuff.
It's so, so good. We were just talking about this before we hopped on here, just like the law of reciprocity, right? Of the law of abundance. It's like, we just want to serve, right? And help other people, whether that be clients, whether that be your audience, or whether that be colleagues or other people out in this space. And so I always love to follow the quote that income just follows impact. Income is a byproduct of impact, right? And the highest paid people on this planet are the ones that are people of value. And what does that mean? Right? To be a person or a business of value means that you offer an incredible solution to a major problem, right? And sometimes that solution's not your own. It's somebody else that like Antonio. If you want to get your taxes straight, you go to Antonio, right? And so that law of reciprocity, right? That law of really having other people's best interest in mind is what pays the most. And it's not the reason why you're doing it. You're doing it because you are a genuine good person. You are righteous. You are a man or a person of integrity, right? And that just gets favored so much, no matter what you believe in. I'm going through Proverbs right now, right? And today I think I was on Proverbs 13, and everything was about just being a righteous individual and how much that is rewarded and smiled upon and loved by God, right? And it's not why we do it. We do things because we do things out of the goodwill of our heart, right? God calls us to love other people like he loves us and believe that Jesus Christ was who he said he was. Right. And when we do those things, right, for those intentions, right, I want to do those things, right, or those intentions, for the intention of, I just simply love God. I love God and what he has done for me, and I want to honor him. And how I honor him is by loving other people the way he wants me to love them and just believing that Jesus Christ said who he was, right? And that right there is what it means to be righteous, right? And when you're righteous, that is rewarded. We're not doing it to be rewarded. We're doing it because we love God and believe in him and want to do what he is calling us to do. But it just so happens that he rewards the righteous. And I think that somebody like, yeah, man, I think that you are one of the most righteous people I've met. And I know he rewards you a ton for that. And I'm sure everyone here that's listening and from this podcast is going to want to learn more about you. And so where can people find you and connect, brother?
I'm honored, brother. That's That's a lot to burden, and I am not worthy of that. It's all up to God, man. And to your point, before I hop into that, money is simply just a byproduct of your own intrinsic value expressed outwardly. And so to leave your listeners off with it is it's less about the first action step of going to serve others. Serve yourself first and become the human that is worthy of continuing to serve others at a much higher level. Get right with yourself, get right with God, and just express that outwardly and give, and then be open to receiving. And that's where money just ends up being that byproduct of it. To answer your question, I'm very active on Instagram. So my Instagram is Antonio Vaglica Jr. I answer my own DMs. I don't have an appointment setter. Then I'm on Twitter, but mostly for educational stuff. Like I love reading threads. I don't actively tweet as much. Yeah, I would say Instagram is the first main point. Or if you're looking to have a conversation, just connect with Justin directly, and we can connect. I'm happy to just pour into anyone of your listeners for sure.
I appreciate that, man. If you're a business owner out here that's someone spinning your wheels on taxes, right? Kind of avoiding the financial side of things, not sure how to integrate your investments, whether that be into the business or outside of the business, to complement your strategy and your goals when it comes to your business and holistically for your household, right? And you're really just kind of spinning your wheels a little bit when it comes to optimizing your business holistically. Antonio and his team, they are your guys. They are your guys. I utilize them. We'll probably utilize them indefinitely for the near future, right? And they've made a drastic difference on not just my business, but my life. And I teach finances. So if I'm hiring them, everybody listening to this should be hiring them too as well. And so Antonio, dude, I love you. Thank you for coming to this episode. We really appreciate you being here.
Love you too, brother. Appreciate you, man.
Of course, man. Thank you everyone for listening to another episode of the Holistic Hustle podcast, right? As I've told you every single episode, my goal with this podcast is just to make content that changes this world, and bringing guests like Antonio on are really helping with that mission. But something that also helps with that mission is not just y'all downloading and subscribing, but sharing these episodes and this podcast with other people. If you thought of somebody while you listen to this podcast, please share this with them. Let the podcast do the serving, and we'd be happy to take it from there. So we'll see you all in the next episode.